Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Urbana Community Development Commission for the month of July 2017. We have an agenda for the meeting, and we'll start off by, I'll now call the meeting to order. Okay, next we have roll call.
Chairperson Fred Cobb.
Here.
Commissioner Michael Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Chris Diana.
Here.
Commissioner Ann Hines Silvis.
Here.
Commissioner Karen Hodgen-Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Jerry Moreland.
Here.
Commissioner Abdul Hakim Salam.
Here.
Commissioner James Winston.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, next we have approval or correction of the minutes from June 2017. So we'll take a couple of minutes and review those minutes, after which I'll entertain a motion for approval or corrections. Okay. Everyone finished reviewing those minutes? If so, I'll entertain a motion for approval or corrections. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of June 27th as written.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second? Is there a motion and a second? Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes stand approved as written. Okay, petitions and communications. Do we have any written correspondence?
No, we don't.
Okay. Audience participation. We have not at this time. Okay. Next, we have staff report. Kelly?
Okay, in your packet, there is the staff briefing showing activities and accomplishments since the last meeting of June 27th. So a couple of, things I'll point out. We received our monitoring letter from HUD for the supportive housing program, and we were monitored about a day and a half in the last week or two. So, and that actually went well. We also received our notice of funding for our Community Development Block Grant and our home program, and CDB, they were about the same. CDBG was cut maybe a couple of $1,000s, which is not bad. I mean, it could have been worse. And home was about 10 or 11,000. So, so we adjusted our annual action plan accordingly and submitted to HUD. And so we're waiting. Actually, they reviewed. They had some questions. We're working on those responses, and then we'll be resubmitting. So hopefully we'll be receiving our funds sometime soon. You can also see, as far as myself, continuing to work with the Village of Rantoul regarding administering of their program. They did have interviews to replace their director and made an offer for somebody, so that's good. So I'm sure that we will be providing technical assistance to that person to help them in the transition and training. So that's good. Also, let's see. What else? You can see working on budget for the next fiscal year. Working on, Randy has listed his rehab projects to date for the emergency grant, senior repair. The blight reduction program, 15 projects were completed, and we're waiting for the final from Ida, and we are hoping that we had some money left over, so we are hoping that we'll be able to use that for another property, so that rather than returning the funds, we'll be using the whole grant. So that's exciting. We're just waiting to hear back from them. As you can see, also the regular meetings that we attended, and then we, City of Urbana, attended and presented at the HUD Grantee Conference, which was at the Urbana Civic Center on the 17th and 18th of this month. Staff presented on the assessment of fair housing, the regional collaboration that we're doing, the process, and then in conjunction with Illinois Housing Development Authority, we talked about the blight reduction program, and it was really good. We had at least 35 signed up, registered, but I think more attended over the 2 days. So, and of course, we had maps for downtown. People enjoyed the restaurants we had. Some were interested in the Dancing Dog and the Black Dog restaurant. And in fact, after the second day, I said networking, Black Dog, and a lot of people went. So it was really good. HUD was appreciative that we had the conference here. So so that's pretty much the highlights. Any questions? If not, that's my report. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. We have no old business, so we'll go to new business. First item under new business, a resolution approving a City of Urbana Community Development Block Grant Program Agreement as Courage Connection Domestic Violence Services Program, project numbers 1718 CSSP-01. You want to talk about that one?
Sure. Actually, we will have these two together.
You want the two together?
Yeah, we'll have the two together, so if you want to also.
Okay, the other one is Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center, Urbana Youth Development and Employment Program, and it has a number.
Yes. So just to let you know, Jason Greenlee with Courage Connection is here, and so is Janice Mitchell with the Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center. So they are here for any questions you might have, and any other information that you might like to hear from them. So for on the agenda, we have here, these are the two agencies that were approved for funding as part of the Consolidated Social Service funding process that fit with our priorities that were chosen by the Commission. So the priorities that were identified were supporting support services and training for low-income persons and supporting homeless needs. So Courage Connection supported the homeless needs, and then the Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center priority fit for the supporting services and training for low-income persons, specifically for their youth development and employment program. So the funding for both of these programs, agencies, are funded with our CDBG public service funds, which is a small portion that we split between the two, and then City of Urbana general funds. And then the other, I think it ends up, out of all those that were funded, that the city will be administering about seven agencies. That fits within the amount of money that the city had allocated, including the CDBG. And then the Office of Cunningham Township, the supervisor's office, will be monitoring and dealing with the contracts for all the other agencies that were funded by the township. So, and as always, these agreements are required by HUD, since they are federal funds, and these agencies both will have two contracts, one the city general fund contract, and then the subrecipient agreement for the CDBG portion. And so that is what we have before you, is the two CDBG subrecipient agreements and resolutions for these two programs. And so there is no impact to either the city general budget as far as, or the CDBG budget, because the $5,000 that we had set aside for this social service funding is included in our annual action plan. And the total amount that was available was $250,000 from, and then City of Urbana, including our CDBG funds, was $75,000 and $175,000 for Cunningham Township. So, with that, we recommend that the Commission forward the resolutions approving these grant agreements to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval. And if you have any questions, let me know. And again, we can also have the agencies come up and answer any questions you might have and submit any information as well.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? I was wondering, how soon can these funds be made available?
It's kind of like a two-part. One, we have to wait for the funding from HUD to come into our IDIS account. And I think we have to wait for our annual action plan to get approved. Once we resubmit, it can take a while for the funds to go into our account. Usually it's sometime in August, I think, is when we get the funds, just because it's a slow process, because it has to go to their office at Fort Worth, Dallas. That is the place that deals with all the funds and sets up the IDIS and all that. So that can take a while. And then we also, until this agreement is forwarded by you and then approved by council, and then the agreement has to be signed by the city and the agency, and then the funds can flow. So it's kind of a two-step process. We have to have the agreement signed, and we have to wait for the funds from HUD. So,
Okay.
but as soon as the funds are in our account and the agreement is signed, then we can start. Our portion is by reimbursement, so they do the services and then they submit a request, and then we reimburse, we pay back.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else have questions?
I just had one question related to the Courage Connection program. I know on those, and not that it should be any different way, but whenever you have domestic violence centers, those service people regardless of socioeconomic status, et cetera. So I was just wondering, do we have any data kind of on the population that's being served in actuality?
I can have Jason come up and
Sure.
talk about that.
Hello, this is on. Hi, I'm Jason Greeley. I'm the Grants and Programs Administrator for Courage Connection. I wouldn't be able to give you an exact percentage or number at the moment, although I would be happy to get that for you tomorrow if you want an actual number. You are correct that the way domestic violence service provision occurs is that, if you experience domestic violence, you can be served by us free of cost. However, what we have found is the vast majority of the people we serve are from a lower economic bracket, just because if one has financial resources, one tends to be able to utilize them. So we absolutely see people from higher income brackets, but for the vast majority of people we serve, they're lower income.
Also, in the agreement on page 12 of 15, under this attachment C, statement of special conditions, it does talk about income and family size. So, and that is something that is reported to us as well. So, because we have to make sure that those that are served with these funds are the low and moderate and fall under these income guidelines.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, would you like to talk about your agency in general and how you are doing and how services are going? And
We're doing very well. Well, in actuality, of recent, you're probably aware we did a very large fund drive to make up for the very large gap in funding that happened because the state didn't have a budget for a long time. So they were a year plus behind on paying us. The fundraising actually went very well. And just this morning I got an email that said the state of Illinois had processed one of its first payments to us. So because there's a budget, those floodgates, well, I shouldn't say floodgates, it's begun to trickle out, but the process has begun. There's still quite a lot of work that has to happen on the state's end in order to release all funding, but as far as panic goes, I believe that's over, and that has largely to do with the very positive response we got from the community that allowed us to get to this point. There have been a lot of social service agencies in the state and locally who, haven't been that fortunate. But our service provision never actually stopped. It didn't drop. We have a very dedicated staff, and while we shouldn't have to prepare for something as egregious as not being paid for a year, we were prepared to manage that, so we did.
Very good.
I'm not really familiar with Courage Connection. How does it work? I mean, what happens? What kind of services do y'all provide?
Primarily, Courage Connection is a domestic violence services provider. So among our services, we operate an emergency shelter for individuals who are fleeing domestic violence. We provide court advocacy, people who actually work in the courthouse to assist people with things like orders of protection, provide emotional support in court. We have counseling. We have transitional housing for people who are rebuilding their lives and need more time and assistance to return to self-sufficiency. Beyond that, we also have a number of rapid rehousing programs, some of which is funded in Urbana. I believe it's your next agenda item as well for TBRA funds. We also operate a store over in Lincoln Square Mall called Connections, which functions partly as an ability for folks to get very affordable clothing and housewares, particularly for folks that say may be rebuilding their lives. But also through that program, there is functionally a job training program. So if anyone, doesn't have a lot of experience with work, they can start functionally working at the store. And if they complete the program, they have basically worked in a retail store. And that's, a very good reference for people as they move on to other jobs. So we do a number of things, but primarily it's domestic violence service provision.
How much time is involved in it, from the time you take a person in to the time that they're able to go out on their own? How much time is involved?
Well, it depends very much on the service. With our emergency shelter, people stay as long as they need to feel safe until they feel like they have a good plan for wherever they're going to move to next. For a transitional housing program, that is a program designed to last 1 year. Again, the length of time people stay varies, but I'd say right now people are averaging about 8 to 9 months before they leave the program and move on to independent living. But it really depends on at what point people come in, if they already have employment or if they don't, or if they have other barriers that they're looking to address. Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Well, since Janice Mitchell is here, shall we have her come up and speak about the Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center and
Sure.
her programs?
Good evening to everyone. My name is Janice Mitchell, and I am the founder and director of Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center. Thank you for the opportunity to come and just share once again. Many of you, I know you've kind of heard me over and over again, and some of you may be your first time. But Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center is located here on Main Street, 1401 East Main, kind of located between the VFW and, well, was Solo Cup, but Dart. And it was the Harley Davidson's building years ago, and then purchased by the Housing Authority, and a large portion of it was used for shipping and delivery, storage, and then the other part was used for storage of everything that they thought they were going to repair, and somehow didn't get around to a lot of it. And myself, along with a lot of people in the community, worked to clean the building over about a 3-month period of time, and with a lot of help, we've literally transformed that portion of the building into what is Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center. We currently operate year-round. We have after-school services where we actually have certified teachers as well as TAs that are currently employed in the school districts that are there pretty much every evening helping with homework. We have an intensive literacy program thanks to the Community Foundation of East Central Illinois. That program literally targets students who are performing a grade level or 2 below, and they do receive additional services in conjunction with the classroom teachers that we communicate with almost at least every other day, to help with their writing, to help with the reading, to help with the math, but also to help with the homework so that it is related to the classroom. We also have, well, we serve kindergarten, and I at one point would say through high school or seniors, and now we really, with our college and career program, we have many of our students who began with us and who are in college. We have a very close working relationship with Parkland College. We are really finding our way into the University of Illinois. This past year, we were really blessed to have the math department and a couple other of the sororities and fraternities that partnered with us to really take our kids over to the campus. And I know for some it may not seem like a lot, but for some students, you had the opportunity to go to more than the U of I. This is the University of Illinois that sits right here. And starting very early to say, hey, you know, we're going to college. This is what it looks like. This is what our campus looks like. We do take the college trips for our high school seniors, well, juniors and seniors, thanks to, again, funding from the city of Urbana, the township, and the WIA program allows us to actually target students who are in sophomores, juniors, and seniors who are, whether it's college and or career bound. So our main goal is that once they walk across the stage as a high school graduate, that they have a plan. So if college is not that plan, if it's, I want to work at a daycare center. I want to own my daycare center. Here's what you need to do to get there. We worked with some of our employment agencies. We have presenters that come in and work with our high school students. But as I said, we're year-round. Right now, I'm coming off of a day where we actually had 55 students from 7:30 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening. And that's Monday through Friday for our 9-week summer camp. We are grateful that our numbers had grown. This year, we actually expanded and opened up a second site. Our what we're calling our Teen Connections is located here in the IMC building on the bottom level. We did a lot of cleaning and painting and getting furniture donated from the community and going to Habitat Restore. Fundraising, help us to get a game room there. University of Illinois has set up our the Fab Lab with our computer lab. We have an office. We have a what we're calling our group family meeting room. So we're on the bottom level there, and pretty much on a daily basis, we're serving between 20, maybe 25 students. Right now, we have 20 of those students at the University of Illinois enjoying the C3 opportunity that's sponsored by Community Coalition and the Park Districts and some others. So we've really grown. We look forward to continuing, and I just want to truly continue to thank the city of Urbana, the township, because as some of you know, when we actually started out on this journey, with still lots of prayers, but very little to no monies. And that was right at the tune of $1,500. And that was used to purchase the paint to paint the building. And so we've really grown, and I'm just grateful that we're able to continue to be seen as what I want to say just a value in our community. So,
Yeah.
questions?
Question, what is the range of ages of people you serve?
We were saying kindergarten, which starts out right at 5 to 6 years old, and for up until about 4 years ago, we would say through seniors. But like I said, when our first class, and everyone's welcome to come in. When you first walk in, you cannot miss all these pictures that are just standing up, all these frames, because we've started out with our college and career program, and 4 years ago, we had our first group of 15 students. The next year, it had grown to 25 students. The next year, it was 35, and this year, I brought it back down to about 25. So, and those were high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors that we're really working with and learning what it really means to have a real follow-through within those high school years, to talk about the fact that you can't wait until you become a junior and a senior and your GPA is this and you're wanting to go this direction. So we do have students into college that we continue well on into their years, that we're really, one of our first graduates came out a year early from SIU in Carbondale this year.
Okay.
So questions?
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, I remember one day I was coming from the nursing home, and I saw a string of children, I think came from your place. It looked like about 100 of them.
It could have been then if it was before, but we are grateful because our mode of travel, for the most part, is MTD, and we've been very grateful because we are in a great location for transportation. So, they definitely do not charter, but we try to let them know ahead of time that you may have 80 kids getting on the bus out here. So we support MTD. MTD supports us at our site.
Okay. Right.
And Janet, I up to about almost 3 years ago, I volunteered at Parkland College. I was a math and reading tutor,
Okay.
and it was for seniors. Okay?
Oh, okay.
And they lost their funding and stopped that. And I work with high school students, but I work mostly with older people like myself. And I think they were really hurt when that program was stopped. And I was just wondering if it might be some kind of idea you might think about in the future, involving some seniors over there with, and it's just basic math and basic reading tutoring, because there is a demand for it.
Well, and I'm smiling only because we have staff who literally, and I know we're very careful in the terms that we use, but I can say, God knows that earlier today, I was really standing up sharing with our staff that I would really like to see Saturdays devoted to some of our senior citizens in the community. Although we have our college and career readiness program, mostly operates on those Saturdays. However, we have Saturdays and Sunday afternoons where our building, I think, can be used. And we were just talking today, and I was saying, I've got to get someone who can help me with this and reach out to our seniors in the community to see how can some of our open time be devoted. Yes, because we have a wonderful computer lab at the center, and the Fab Lab at the University of Illinois continues to maintain and keep us going with them. So,
Okay.
yes. So, yes, I'd love to talk with you, and, if you have some recommendations,
Okay,
I'd be
all
happy
right.
to. Yes. other
Okay.
questions?
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you all very, very much. Okay.
Okay, well, we need to take action on these programs. We have three options, of course, to recommend, to forward these programs to City Council with a recommendation for approval, to make a recommendation with modifications, or to not recommend the programs. With that, I'd like to ask for a motion regarding these programs.
I move that we forward both resolutions approving the grant agreements to Urbana City Council with recommendation for approval.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward these resolutions to City Council with a recommendation for approval. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next, under the home program, we have a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium subrecipient agreement, which is Courage Connection, TBRA, for fiscal year 2017-18.
I did want to try to present on all three of the
All
home
three
resolutions
together?
at the same time. I wanted to make three different packets because each of these resolutions impacts affordable housing in a different way, and I wanted to call out those differences and focus on them in the packets, but I do want to try to call out some of the similarities and focus on those during my presentation, so just wanted to put that out there.
Mhm.
Okay. And then we will need to finish reading and vote on them separately.
Okay,
Just wanted to throw that out, too.
Okay, next, the second of the group of three is a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium subrecipient agreement, which is Habitat, for fiscal year 2017-2018. Third, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium subrecipient agreement, which is a down payment assistance program for 2017-18. Okay, like to address those separately?
Sure.
Okay.
So all of these three programs were funded under a request for proposals that was put out by the City of Urbana on January 27th. That request for proposals, the deadline for that was a month later in February, and we received 3 responses. And those 3 are the proposals before you tonight. We decided, as part of the Home Consortium Technical Committee, to fund each of the 3 proposals to at least $150,000. Courage Connection and Navicor, due to various reasons, were determined to be given soft cost reimbursements as well that can be reimbursed after appropriate documentation is given. And to allocate this funding procedurally, we needed to amend our annual action plan for the years from which this funding came, which was fiscal year 14-15 and fiscal year 15-16. And that process was begun in March of 2017, and we held a public hearing on March 28th. And that amendment was approved by City Council to allocate the funding to these 3 organizations on May 1st of 2017. We then sent the amendment for review to HUD, and it was acknowledged that it was reviewed on July 10th, and the agreements are now before the CDC this evening. So I do want to talk a little bit about each of the proposals. and I'll start with Courage Connection. Their proposal is for a tenant-based rental assistance program, abbreviated TBRA, and that program takes in people who are, in many cases, receiving services from Courage Connection or coming from the emergency shelter or transitional housing. And the Courage Connection uses the tenant-based rental assistance program to help those families to achieve self-sufficiency and to reintegrate with getting into a lease on their own permanent housing and unsubsidized housing. And Jason is wearing two hats tonight. He can talk about that if you have any questions. The next program that I wanted to talk about was that we're funding is the Habitat program. And that agreement is very similar to other subrecipient agreements that we've provided to Habitat in the past. They currently have 3 addresses that they have identified as sites for new permanent home ownership opportunities for families that have been pre-approved by their board. There is another site, a 4th site, that has not yet been identified, but Habitat will provide us with the address as that site is selected, and it will be incorporated into this agreement. The final project is it's led by an agency that might seem a little unfamiliar. Navicor Solutions is a homeownership counseling agency based out of Peoria, and they have worked with Habitat and other agencies locally in the past, so they have familiarity with our market. And their proposal for the RFP was submitted in conjunction with a group of Champaign-Urbana banking institutions called the Community Reinvestment Group. And the proposal was formulated in partnership with them so that banks would be familiar with what the down payment assistance product would be offering, and Navicor would be familiar with what the banks expect. It's expected to provide down payment assistance to 15 to 20 households, but it's unlike previous home-funded down payment assistance programs. It's not a flat amount. The amount will actually be calculated for each client based on their debt, assets, income, and other criteria that are stipulated through the home program. So then moving on here, the fiscal impacts for all of these are the same in terms of the general fund. All of these fundings, all of the funds spoken of in these memos are coming from the HOME program, which is a federal affordable housing subsidy program, and they come from the fiscal year 14-15 and 15-16 allocations. And per HUD, the commitment deadline for those allocations is in August. Now, I will point out that HUD has notified us that they are suspending that deadline, but at the same time, we want to work to try to make these commitments as soon as possible and to get the money out the door for the agencies and the people who need them. So we are proceeding along with our current trajectory. Programmatically, all three of these initiatives are very much in line with our consolidated plan and subsequent annual action plans, especially the ones for those years. And with that in mind, staff recommends that the CDC move to recommend approval on each of the three resolutions. I am here for questions, as is Jason and Sheila Dodd, the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity of Champaign County. So if you have any questions, feel free to let us know.
Questions? You have one? Okay.
I'm unfamiliar with the matching requirement, so the matching of 25%, is that a $37,500 in addition to the $150,000 that will come from home, or is it included?
It is, it's in addition. Habitat has to provide non-federal funding to match the 25% non-federal funding to match the $150,000 that we are providing them through the subrecipient agreement. And Sheila can go into more detail about that if you have any questions, but many of the sources that they use are private contributions, other grant sources that are non-federal, the buyers of the homes, the mortgage payments that they make, those are all eligible match sources, and we use that to try to meet that 25%.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you'd like, I can also talk about the other two agencies. Navicor is, like, as I mentioned, they're in partnership with other banking institutions, and they have other down payment assistance that they intend to group with our down payment assistance for income-eligible buyers. Those would count as match for them. And also for Courage Connection, the match could be provided through a number of different sources. They receive a variety of different grants, and I believe it's in the memo what exactly that would come from. That's right. Donations and in-kind services would be make up that 25% for that agency.
Okay. Got a question. Did you have more? Okay. For the TBRA, it says the $150,000 plus project delivery funds. I was wondering how much approximately the project delivery funds amount to.
The project delivery funds are approximately $27,000. It's $27,671.50 to be precise. And where that amount came from is we had the funding that went into the RFP, that was the amount that needed to be committed, and we capped that off at a maximum of $150,000. We also wanted to reserve some funds for soft cost reimbursement as needed, and that amount can be used to reimburse Jason or his staff for making sure that potential clients are income eligible, doing inspections on various properties, things of that nature. That can be done, that can be charged as a soft cost, and if they give us documentation that that's been done, we can reimburse those costs. But it's sort of an optional aspect of the agreement.
Okay. Okay, so these funds are to be reimbursed, you say?
Yes, all of these
Okay.
funds will be given on a reimbursement basis.
Okay. All right. Well, you make sure things are being done.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. I think these are commendable projects, and they really help people. So with that,
Since
Yes.
Sheila's here, would you like Sheila to talk about what Habitat is doing? We heard from Jason about
I
their
was
services.
just going to ask the same thing, since we have especially some new members, if you wouldn't mind giving us the highlights of last year and the coming attractions.
Thank you. Last year, we built, finishing up 10 new homes in the Champaign-Urbana area between Madison, Lincoln. We are finishing up a large grant that we received from the Illinois Attorney General's office. We received $2 million, and the projects ended up costing about $5 million. So these funds are help filling in some of that gap, private donations. I'm sure you saw recently we received a large grant from Yahoo Foundation. And those are the kind of funds that we then reinvest back into the community. This next year, we have planned to do 6 new homes with this project. And then we are also going to start doing smaller home repairs. So we're initiating our neighborhood revitalization strategy in Urbana between Wright and Lincoln, University Avenue North, where we will do minor repairs to homes. Maybe there's a senior who needs a yard cleanup done, but they don't have family or the ability to pay for somebody to do it. And then we'll start looking at maybe doing some rehab projects. We've been meeting with the cities, finding where there's gaps and the affordable housing needs. We can be a little more flexible with our dollars. If the city invests money in a house, they have to bring it all the way up to code, where we're not held to those same standards. We can, put a coat of siding or a new roof on a house and not necessarily have to bring it all the way up to code. So it's a way for us to make a neighborhood impact and a neighborhood difference, but yet not have to do the investment that the city does. We're looking at ways to continue to work together with Urbana staff, so maybe the two of us working together on the same project that, it'll stretch their dollars further, but yet make that greater neighborhood impact in Urbana. So, quick highlight of where we are at with our projects. All of our families, no matter what program they apply for, are approved based on their ability to repay a mortgage, whether it's a smaller project. They all have sweat equity in the project, depending upon the value, whether it's 15 hours or 250 hours. We really firmly believe in the hand up, not a handout model, and helps people maintain dignity and invest in the neighborhood. And then their willingness to partner. If Urbana had a neighborhood cleanup in the spring, maybe we can offer volunteers to go there and help. They help support us, we can help support them. So that's the criteria we use to help approve people to participate in our program.
I was wondering, how long does it take from a person applying for the program till they're approved or disapproved?
Right. We're just
Generally.
finishing up our 100th home at 1408 West Hill, so you guys will have to come to the dedication in August. That family was approved about 14 months ago, so it can take up to 2 years, depending upon if we need to find properties or funding sources or that kind of thing. We are getting ready to start 2 projects at 1204 and 1206 West Church Street. Those will be starting in August. And those families we're hoping are through the program in 9 months. I'd really like to close them out by the end of December to take advantage of some grant opportunities and down payment monies for them. So
Yeah, I was referring to how long before approving the individual.
once
Or
they're
family.
approved by our
Yeah.
board, they hit the ground running. They start their sweat equity, and we don't start them, or we don't approve them until we're ready to move forward. We kind of are held to the same lending requirements that a Busey Bank is, or a traditional lender right now, even though I think we have the best mortgage in town at 0% interest and no closing costs. But so once the family is in place, they've got their credit cleaned up, they feel like they're ready to move forward, then we start a formal application process, because we have to have them approved or denied within 30 days of the actual application, just as if they were going to a bank and applying. So before that, we do a lot of front-end stuff. We do credit workshops every other month where we offer free credit report review. We teach people how to read their credit reports. We have financial education classes. We do a series of 10 to 12 in the spring and in the fall, so that once we open up that application period, hopefully people are ready to move forward.
Okay.
And we've been doing that process that way for about 5 years now. And what we're seeing is our families who are moving forward, most of them have been to see us before and have cleared up their credit or taken care of any problems and are moving forward. And I think that's great. Whether they move forward with us or a loan, or just, go to a traditional lender, or decide not to go into homeownership, having your credit clear is nothing but valuable.
And again, speaking of timeframes, about how long does it take to build a house on average?
Yeah, it typically takes us we started the house on Hill the first week of May, and it'll be landscaped this weekend and done. We won't sell it until the end of August, because we're busy getting down payment programs together, but it typically takes 16, 18 weeks, depending on how many projects we've got going. So,
Okay.
yep.
Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
What's the distribution between Urbana and Champaign as far as the houses?
Looking back over our history of 100 homes, we have probably done, oh gosh, I used to know these numbers offhand, but We've done more in Urbana than we have Champaign, but not by much. I don't have the numbers exactly. I can give them to Kelly, and she can distribute them to you. We do serve the county, but we are a fair housing lender. So if you came to us and said, you know, you'd like to build with us, and we start you through the process, once you're approved by our board, we would ask you then, where would you like to live? Do you want to live in Urbana, Champaign, or do you care, you know, or in the county? Typically, people choose where their kids are going to school. The only time I find that difference is we have a lot of our families move from Rantoul down here. But they get to choose. And if they say Champaign and I don't have any lots in Champaign, then they wait 6 months, and if we will show them again anything we have. And if we still don't have any lots, then they step out of the program for a year. So right now I have, well, these 2 I'm getting ready to build on, and I have 3 other lots in Urbana that I can work on, and I have 2 in Champaign. So it's just whatever I have and whatever the family wants. But the distribution has been probably 55% Urbana, you know, maybe 40% Champaign, and then a little bit in Gifford and Rantoul.
Thank you.
You were talking about rehabbing houses,
Mm-hmm.
and you said that Habitat, as opposed to the city of Urbana, if you both bought houses, that the city would have to bring their houses up to code, but Habitat wouldn't.
No, it's not if we buy a house. If you own your own home and you come to the city, right now they have an owner-occupied rehab program to where if they go in and use home money, the home dollars require them to bring the house all the way up to code. And that's driven by who gives them money. But if Habitat goes in and we have private dollars and we decide to do siding on a house, we don't have to do anything else to it. It's private money invested. It's a private program. It's not required. But maybe we would partner with the city and we would do, you know, the siding, and then maybe they would come in and do the code things that are required on the inside. And so together we might make that bigger impact on a house. But it saves them money and it saves the homeowner money.
But if the city didn't do that with you, so you could put siding on a home?
Yes. Yeah,
and
we
you
can
could
do
still
that
put
now.
a family in there, even though it'd be other violations?
We would do it to owner-occupied houses only. So it would be current owners.
Okay.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
a family would still be living in that house that wasn't up to code?
Yeah, which is why I would prefer, if I'm doing it with volunteers, that we only do exterior type projects. It's hard to get volunteers inside somebody's house, you know, comfort level for the owner and comfort level for liability. So, but we could easily do a yard cleanup or new siding or paint a garage, or, you know, there's a lot of things we can do on the outside of the house to make a big difference in a neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Anything else?
Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much.
I did want to add one thing, in particular with relation to the Navicor contract. The subrecipient agreement is the actual specifics of the language are being reviewed right now by the lending institutions, so they are somewhat subject to change. The core of the program will not change, and it will be subject to the HUD rules and that govern the home program, but I did want to point out that there might be some language taken out or put into that just to make sure that banks are comfortable with using this program and allowing their home buyers to use it as well. I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Okay. Anyone have anything else before I ask for a motion? If not, I'll entertain a motion, since we need to do these separately. We'll start off with Courage Connection, TBRA. We can forward the resolution to the city with a recommendation for approval, suggest changes, or not approve. Would someone make a motion?
I move we forward the resolution with a recommendation for approval.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward the resolution to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval. Any questions, comments? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, let's move on next to, let's do Habitat. Again, we have those three options to forward the resolution to the City Council with a recommendation for approval, or we could suggest changes, or we could not recommend approval. May I have a motion for this resolution?
I move we recommend or the resolution be approved and with our approval to the City Council.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to forward the resolution to Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval. Any comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay. Next, we have the down payment assistance. Again, we can have those three choices. Forward the resolution to the City Council with recommendation for approval, or suggest changes, or do not recommend approval. May I have a motion?
I move we forward the resolution to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward the resolution to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval. Any comments, questions? Yes.
You were saying that there had to be some changes in the language?
There may be some changes. We've sent the document for review by the attorneys at the banks. The changes would not be substantial. It would still be a down payment assistance program for low-income individuals in the home consortium area. Those would be, the changes that would be made would be specific income targeting, I'm not even really sure what other regulations the banks might want us to change or have comments on, if any at all. So that's really the scope of whatever suggestions and things that might change in the agreement.
Okay, and again, the final decision will be with City Council. So,
Thank you.
okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, that exhausts our agenda for the evening. Does anyone have any other issues you'd like to present? If not, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you.